Warning: the episode you are about to listen to most likely contains graphic language, details of violence and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome to episode 30 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother. My mother.
Hello, daughter. I can't believe it's episode 30 already.
I know.
And we're still here.
I know, episode 30.
Studio.
Yeah. Again, not for much longer. The max capacity of my body is about to outdo the studio, outgrow it, so...
Well, I've been squished kind of into more of a corner. My legs fall asleep, but that's okay because I'm not however many weeks pregnant you are.
Yeah, 7 more days until the baby comes, so...
7 more days, so the 22nd at 12:30, Kiana Victoria will be born.
Yes, she will.
But I will forever call her Kiana Dion, and then we'll just move on.
That's Mom's middle name, and so she's always like, how about you just throw a Dion in there? And I'm like,
Yeah, I think it could be like your brother's name is like hyphenated 60 times. I'm pretty sure you could just hyphenate Dion in there also.
Yeah, well, it's her dad's turn to give her the middle name, so that's his.
That's okay because, like I said,
you'll just refer to her as Kiana Dion.
He doesn't listen to this podcast. So
No.
Good.
He's hit or miss, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because
sometimes he doesn't listen to this one then.
Yeah, well, sometimes he says stuff and I'm like, whoa. That sounds like it's straight out of episode 25. So I think he listens. He's a, what's it called? Listens when he wants to.
Oh, yeah. One of those.
To
Hopefully
everything.
you guys are not like that because I know Brent BLB and Michelle Wilson are not like that.
No, not at all. We have a couple other people that don't miss. Shout out to Amy. Amy actually just started a new clothing company, which is super cool.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Where do you know Amy from?
We used to party.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we grew up in the same kind of area, I guess. But yeah, Golden Triangle Limited. They have super cool, comfy clothes, comfy shirts, comfy tracksuits. She's got it all. Cozy jackets.
I'm going to have to try that out because I like cozy stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm about to like cozy stuff a lot more, so...
Yeah, so that is the biggest news in our lives right now is that Danika's about to have the true crime buff daughter that is going to be our next generation of bad teenagers.
Well, let's hope not, but yeah.
Well, we do come notoriously from a long line of wild women. And Kierce, Danika's son, is not wild. He's pretty chill and mellow, but that's usually the boys in our family. The girls are usually born with a twinkle in their eye.
And a nice thing of red hair.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Kiana has red hair, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We'll have to see. We'll update everybody when we come back. So we're going to take a little break after this one, obviously, because Danika's going to have some stuff to do.
Yep, so we will be back to you guys in the middle of January, we're going to aim for. So expect an episode middle of January. Obviously, we will be active on the social media. So if you guys have any questions, any suggestions, any well wishes, any complaints. I mean, fuck, I hope not, because I won't answer you. But...
Well, I'll be in charge
I'll
of
have my hands full.
I'll be in charge of any of it. So any of you get any...
suggestions from someone that has a dog account, then that's fucking Mom.
Or any inappropriate responses.
Then that's also probably Mom.
That would probably also be me.
Yes.
I'm the notoriously inappropriate.
But you know, at least you're true to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So speaking of true to yourself, our episode today is actually about someone... Well, we know serial killers are all... I mean... Obviously, they're not just serial killers on the surface. Like we've said, sometimes you can look at someone and be like, whoa, you're sketchy looking. But a lot of the time, it's like people that blend in. Okay, and I hate to say this word, but the people that have been successful serial killers, that have gotten away with quite a long line of killing and murdering under the community's noses, have all been like shapeshifters, like,
yes,
you know,
shapeshifters, people that blend in easily,
good looking, people that are considered good looking. So they're like, you know, not people aren't as apprehensive, or people that seem very like, remember when we did Ridgeway, he was just kind of like the guy next door, like, you know, Gary
yeah.
Ridgway, but he's really killed 72 prostitutes. It's like, holy fuck. Or even, I mean, Ted Bundy, obviously we haven't
Ted
done it.
Bundy
Oh,
was a ladies' man, and he was
yeah.
handsome
And
if you look for the day.
yeah, well, and if you look at things he did, he like he played on people's, you know, like pretending to have a broken leg and asking someone, hey,
Yeah,
can
and
you
their
please?
sympathies.
Yeah, you know, like in targeted young, normal, you know, people that would just go missing and everyone would notice. So it was like, and he got away with that for so long, and he wasn't like he was like a public figure.
But the thing is that when you are a serial killer and you fit the demographic of being just like a normal member of society, and generally a lot of these people were also just like Caucasian people that blended in with their Caucasian backstory and whatever, and made everybody just kind of feel like, oh yeah, it's just a normal guy. And
Yeah.
today's case is actually, he wasn't good looking because he was a
No,
little not
but
good looking, but he was very, he was very
he was
just,
a little not good looking. Yeah.
I mean, he looked normal though, and he blended in very, very well, and he was a prolific serial killer.
Well, he's like a suburban dad, right? He's what you would picture to be like, you know, he on the surface, he has all these things. He's well known in the community. He's married, which a lot of, you know, serial killers are. He's married to a woman, which in this case, these are all like he, you know, they're murders of they're homosexual murders. They are, right? So it's very strange how you can literally be like one polar opposite in front of people, and then everyone has that, you know, that little how you act when you're not with anybody, but it's like, okay, these guys take it to like the extreme.
Yes.
So yeah, if you guys guessed, I don't know if anyone guessed, Mom chose the case this week, and the case we are covering is that of, Mom, drum roll,
The killer clown, John Wayne Gacy. And he, like I said, was a prolific serial killer. He has admitted, and they found the remains of 33 victims, all of which were young men ranging from the ages basically of around 14 to 20. Some of them were a little bit older, but the older ones still remain unidentified. So that was his MO, and they were all male.
And this was early. Like, this is kind of one of the first prolific serial killers that was so twisted that, you know, this is one of the people who the FBI, remember we covered with the Ed. Remember when he did a interview with the FBI, right? Because they were trying to learn from his fucking crimes because they were so strange and so okay, yeah, he fucked his mom's dead head, but like John Wayne Gacy dressed up as a clown. He had, again, like I said, he had a beard, he had like a family, a wife, all these things, and he was
successful businesses.
Yeah.
He was involved in politics. We're going to get into all of this a little bit more, but here we go, everybody.
Yes, and with that, we are going to jump right into episode 30. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
John Wayne Gacy Jr. was born in Chicago, Illinois. He was the second of 3 children, so a middle child, which we've seen a lot also. And he was born to John Wayne Gacy Sr., who was his father. He was a machinist. And Marion Elaine Robinson, his mother. And she was just a normal lady. They were just pretty normal, except for the fact that his father, John Sr., was a major alcoholic, and he was said to be very, very abusive.
To the whole family?
Yeah, so he would constantly berate his wife and his children. And it's said that one time in the middle of dinner, he stood up and punched Marion in the face so hard that he actually dislodged her bridge in her teeth.
Okay, like, I didn't mean to laugh. Like, it's not funny, but it's like, it's kind of like, damn.
In front of his children.
Damn, John. Well, and we have talked many, many times about the trauma that children sustained in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and I'm sure before. But they're definitely a highlight on how that impacts people in their adulthood. So obviously this is a case in point.
Do you think, like, I don't know a lot of my friends that are married to abusive alcoholics this day and age, but maybe they're just not telling us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess people just leave when it's coming to that. But back in those days, in the 60s, I think it was kind of said, like, if you get married, you're married for life, and your parents would shun you, and the whole fucking community
and everyone
would shun
was
you
basically
and shit.
religious too, because it's like, and then it's like, oh, I don't really know again much about religion, but it's like it was looked down upon in a lot of churches, a lot of just friend circles. Even you were like super judged. I saw a post the other day on Facebook, and it's like something about back in the day, like there wasn't there wasn't social media to distract us and likes, and we cared about this, and it's like, no, it's like that's why marriages
your husband punched your fucking bridge out, and then it was said that she left with the 2 kids, like, to her mom's or whatever, and then she went right back and made him dinner and didn't even ever bring it back again, bring it up.
But that's what I mean. It's like people these days are like, there's just distractions, and that's why relationships don't last. It's like, no, because fucking women don't tolerate being a punching bag or fucking being emotionally abused.
Well, imagine like someone punching my bridge out of my face, like just at dinner. Like, who knows why he did it, but apparently he just stood up from the dinner table in front of the 3 children and did that. So that gives you kind of, when you're a kid, I guess, like, not to say that he has any excuse for turning into what he turned into, but
no, but we've talked about it before. Yeah, we've talked about it before with all the serial killers. I mean, most of them, if you look at ones we've profiled, a lot of them have mommy issues.
Or daddy issues.
Or daddy issues, yeah.
But it's funny because his father, so John Wayne Gacy Jr., was diagnosed with a congenital heart condition when he was quite young. So his mom kind of babied him, and she didn't let him exercise or play outside with the kids or any of that stuff. So he was kind of a fat little guy when he was little. He was overweight, and
he was a fat little guy when he was old too.
Yeah. So his father used to always, like, he'd play on all that stuff. He called him a sissy. He called him
basically the
bad
man
words
in his
for gay. Like, he was
Well, that's the thing. If the man in your life and you're a man is treating you that way, what's that going to do for you? Because they say, oh, be for a father, be like the
don't cry, be manly, like
but
be the head of the
like
household.
I'm saying for like a woman, or like someone who's considered heterosexual, they say like, oh, your dad is the first basically example of how a man's going to love you, or what you're going to tolerate from a man. So imagine, because John Wayne Gacy is obviously, later on in life, we know he's homosexual. He can say he's bisexual.
He's closeted, for sure.
Yes, 100%.
So he was told that his whole life, but then back in the 60s and 70s, it was such a shunned
taboo, and you're shunned, and it's like, let's fucking zap it out of you, or whatever they tried to do, like conversion therapy, like all that shit. That's crazy.
So when he was 11, this kind of comes back to the McDonald triad also. He was struck on the forehead by a swing, which resulted in head trauma and formed a clot in his brain that went unnoticed until he was 16.
And the thing is, I don't think we've actually talked about that on the McDonald triad. We've talked about bedwetting, arson, and animal abuse.
Oh, yeah.
But right. A big, huge one we've never mentioned, or it's never come up yet for us that we knew about, was head trauma, like sustaining a big traumatic injury to your head.
In the medulla oblongata, they say, is where the damage is. So when he was 16, he started suffering blackouts, and his mom, probably because he was also a mommy's boy and was really close to his sisters, they took him to the hospital, and he had a clot so big they had to dissolve it.
Oh, God.
In his brain. And so that was there for 5 years.
So look at, like, just the psychology behind that. Like, look, like, he never went on to abuse women because his women, like, he was well loved by women.
He prized the women, and he was treated well by them.
Yeah. Just so interesting for me to, like, just to dissect that whole thing.
So he was kind of a underdog in school because he, I guess,
didn't... He's a chubby little kid.
Yeah, and he didn't hang out with the boys and whatever. And he attended 4 high schools, and he ended up dropping out before completing his senior year. But So did I. So,
yeah, well,
whatever.
You're welcome.
If I start killing people, that's fucking because of it.
Hey guys, it's Danica. I know you've heard our commercial of First Sense Dog Dry Shampoo, but now's your chance to get some for yourself and for your furry companion. Use promo code MWMM10 at checkout at www.firstsense.ca for 10% off your first sifter pack. These things are awesome. With the sifter pack, you can try all 3 scents: restorative cedarwood, purifying peppermint, and my personal favorite, Zen lavender. That way, you can say goodbye to those stinky car rides home. I promise you and your fur baby are gonna love this product. Now, back to Murder with My Mother.
So he then left his family when he was supposed to be graduating high school and ran away to Las Vegas.
Probably to go live his real life, his true
Well, imagine
identity.
like your dad is a fucking major dick face, and you're like,
I can imagine that actually.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
He doesn't fucking listen to this.
So he ran out of money eventually and returned to Chicago, and without even finishing high school, he went to college, which I also did.
Good for him, yeah.
I also did that.
Wow, you and John Wayne Gacy got
I
a lot
know,
in
we
common.
do. We have more than you know so far, because we'll talk about that in a minute. So
You were a clown too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't know that yet.
Oh, sorry.
So he did really well in college. He took a bunch of business courses, and then he ended up getting a management position in a shoe company called Nunn Bush Shoes, which apparently in the States are still pretty sold in all the airports and stuff like that. I've never seen them, but we live in Canada, so we don't have any selection of anything.
Fucking shit.
So he was transferred with the shoe company to Springfield, Illinois, where he ended up hooking up with a co-worker named Marilyn Myers, and they got married. Yeah. So
seems fun.
Yeah, someone married John Wayne Gacy. I'm sure she regretted it later.
Yeah, well, I think there's more than one.
And he became active in a group called the JCs, which I think is kind of like the Shriners. I'm not really sure because we don't have them here either. So the Shriners, Boy Scouts? Well, the Shriners were these guys that used to dress in these weird hats like the Grand Poobahs, and they used to raise money.
What? Well, every other people group you bring up, it's like, what the fuck?
Well, no, they used to raise money for like children's hospitals and stuff like that. The Grand Poobahs.
Oh, Poobahs.
Okay. But the Shriners was the other hospital, and I don't really know much about the JCs, but I'm assuming it's kind of just like there was a lot of weird groups back in the day where guys would get together, and I think it was just a cover for being a weirdo, really. Sorry if that offends anyone.
Yeah, I can't even Google it because it doesn't even exist.
So he rose all the way to the vice president of the JCs.
Because he was really manipulative. That's, again, another
he was
quality of a narcissist, right?
So Marilyn's parents had purchased a group of Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises, and they offered their new son-in-law, John Wayne Gacy, to be the manager of the one in Waterloo, Iowa.
Is that why some people refer to him as the Colonel?
Yes. So
that makes total sense now.
Yeah. So his family moved and bought a house, and they moved to Waterloo, Iowa, and John Wayne Gacy started running all of his KFC, and him and Marilyn ended up having a couple kids.
Life's good. They were living good.
Yeah. And he also was, going hard with the JCs back then. So he was having all these friends and groups, and he had all these young kids.
He was a social guy.
He was a social guy, and he had, a lot of, as you know, most of the workers that work for the chain restaurants like KFC and McDonald's and all that stuff.
They're younger for the most part.
Yeah, like young. That's like your first job. Remember, you worked at McDonald's.
Yeah, and then I got fired, and then I would still go
and work with your uniform on when you were fired.
Because my friends were all working there and I had nothing else to do, so...
That's the best. Didn't you get in trouble for that?
Yeah, they were like, you don't work here anymore. I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, I don't?
Oh. So anyway, I was also 13, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, so... Anyway, moving on. So anyway, all these kids worked there, and they were kind of, he obviously was...
So he had, manipulative. He had a big, big access to younger boys, and nobody knew that he was a creepy pedophile weirdo that liked younger boys. But you think people would have started cluing in when he turned his basement of his Waterloo home, which was quite a nice home. He had a basement and he turned it into like a man cave, basically.
Like a rumpus room?
Yeah, like a rumpus room. If people don't know what a rumpus room is, we all used to have one, and it was kind of like a family room with like games.
So where you go rumpus.
Yeah, you go fucking rumpus. Yeah. And so he had a pool table, and I'm sure he probably had a dartboard, because who didn't? And he used to invite all the young boys down there, and he would
he would get them drunk and like
he would get them drunk
pot and stuff,
and
right?
he would put pornography on, show them pornography.
Which I've heard quite a few guys say that they used to do that together, which freaks me out because I never
It's like a circle jerk.
Yeah,
but like, what a circle jerk is?
I totally know what a circle jerk is, but it's just like
weird, right?
It is, but it's like I think 99% of boys have circle jerk with
I
their friends.
I don't know.
No, that's really what I thought too. And literally, I've had multiple, and like I'm gonna say multiple people say like, yeah, I jerked in the same room as my friend. I'm like, what? Really?
That's
something you do when you go home.
Yeah, in your bedroom. Yeah. With the lights off and a pillow over it.
There you go. Okay. Oh, shame.
So, masturbation can also make you go blind.
Okay.
Just kidding. I can still see somewhat. So, yeah, he used to do that kind of weird stuff in his basement, and the JCs were all into that stuff too, and they used to all cheat on their wives and do drugs and watch porn also. So
would he like have like obviously separate parties where he'd have like young boys over, and then he'd have like the JC old guys over?
Yeah,
like,
I guess, because like no one really knew.
But everyone was just down to circle jerk.
Yeah.
See?
The SJ or the CJ.
The CJs are SCing.
So
CCN, I guess.
Nobody knew, I guess, that he was circle jerking with the young boys, because everyone was extremely surprised when his ideal life came crashing down in March of 1968, when two Waterloo boys aged 16 and 15 accused him of sexually assaulting them. So the first kid was actually kid of one of the other JCs. And it took him like 6 months to come forward, because he was probably like feeling really ashamed.
What if, like that's the one thing that makes me, I mean, okay, obviously any kind of assault against children is horrible, but if it's someone who's a stranger, it's one thing. Like, okay, it's obviously still fucking horrible. But if it's someone that can be around the family and be friends with them, and like
extra,
it's like extra, like fucking nasty, because you think like they're swindling everyone. Like, it's easy to swindle a child.
It happened a lot. Like yeah. They say most molesters are
known to you,
close to you. Yeah,
which is so fucked up.
So, and then not only was he was going to get charged for this, and they were building a case, and the young boy was about to testify, and Gacy was trying to sweet talk his way out of the whole thing. He said that the boy's father...
He's used to it. He's used to sweet talking his way into situations or out of them.
He said the boy's father, the fellow JC, just wanted his position in the JCs as the vice president, and that's why he talked his son into, like... Lying about him sexually assaulting him. And when they wrote about it in the papers, because it was quite big news, they just wrote that he was being charged with an indecent act.
Right? Yeah.
They didn't say anything about it. So that's how faux pas talking about sexual abuse was.
And it said allegedly. Like, it's like, you know, obviously it has to say allegedly, but it's like, a young boy is not going to lie about that.
So back in those days, you know, it was 1968, and nobody wanted to talk about that. And then Gacy even went a step further and hired another kid who was 18 to beat the kid up that was going to testify against him. But then the kid told that Gacy paid him to beat the kid up, and he actually was going to give him $300.
He needs to start surrounding himself with people his own age.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to have that kind of stuff going on in their lives when they're adults, I guess. So he finally, I mean, he was going to get charged for a bunch of stuff because he paid another kid to beat up another kid so that, you know, like it was
so that he wouldn't say that he freaking sexually molested him. Like,
yeah, and he probably even sexually molested the kid he was going to pay.
Oh, for sure.
And so he eventually pled guilty to 1 count of sodomy. So that was it. They kind of made a deal with him and let him get away with the rest of the stuff that he was going to be charged with. But I don't think he thought this was going to happen to him, but he was sentenced to 10 years in the Iowa State Penitentiary.
Which, okay, that's long-ish, but not long enough, obviously. I think that as soon as you have any kind of sex act against a child, you should be in jail for the rest of your life.
But it's so crazy because even these days, people can do all this crazy stuff, like, you know, and they don't get charged for any,
well,
like,
especially we've talked about it on our side of the border.
Yes. So he was sentenced to 10 years, and immediately after he was sentenced, his wife filed for divorce.
Oh.
Which, who can blame her?
That's so surprising.
And he wrote her all these letters to try to convince her to come back to him and don't divorce me. And then she said no, she was going to divorce him. And he said, you and the children are dead to me. Which is probably the best fucking thing she ever heard in her life.
But at the same time, you have to think, like, he's only that desperate, like desperado, because it's going to blow his whole cover, right? Already now, publicly he's known. Publicly he had like a
sodomy charge.
Well, yeah, publicly he had a sodomy charge. But I mean, before that, right? He was like a pillar of the community.
Yep, he was the colonel.
Yeah, so geez. I mean, that's
so
fucking...
He was sentenced to 10 years, but he only served 18 months.
Which is super fucked up.
He was paroled in 1970.
That's so crazy to me.
And
2 years?
Yeah,
oh, good behavior.
Of course he had 18 months.
Of course he had good behavior because there's no fucking kids in jail.
And he was paroled for just to be out there, and like he wasn't even, there was no sex offenders registry list or anything like that back then, because back in those days everybody abused kids too.
Yeah, well, we've covered that on more than fucking 2 episodes.
So he ended up leaving jail and he moved in with his mom because that's pretty much the only place that he had to go back in Illinois. And he hid his criminal record. No one even really knew about it.
And that was probably pretty easy to do back in those days. No social media, no internet, no computers, no nothing. It was the 70s. It was the early 70s.
Yeah, like it was just 1970.
Like you weren't even born yet.
So, I know, but I'm pretty young.
Yeah.
So in jail, he had spent a lot of time training as a chef. Well, 18 months, I guess. So not a lot of time. And when he got out, he moved in with his mother and got a job as a chef in Chicago in a restaurant. And his mom helped him buy a little, well, I guess she probably bought for him, like a little rancher house in, on the address there, which later became quite famous, was 8213 West Somerdale Avenue in an area of Norwood Park, which is a little suburb of Chicago. So the house was, like I said, a little rancher, but it had a 4-foot deep crawl space under the floor.
Perfect.
Yeah. So in 1971, Gacy was actually charged again with disorderly conduct because a boy claimed that Gacy picked him up and tried to force him into sex. Big fucking surprise.
Well, and they were probably like, no, you probably got the wrong idea.
Yeah.
Like, because they probably ran away. It's like before...
You're a pillar of the community and you're a chef.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, the cops didn't really take anyone's things seriously back then. They were just like, oh, yes, sure.
Sure you did.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
That boy's probably just homosexual.
Yeah.
So it's funny because that kid never showed up to court. So I wonder what happened there.
He probably hired another kid to beat him up.
Yes, exactly. So, and then again in 1972, another kid went to the police and said that John Wayne Gacy had flashed a sheriff's badge and lured him into his car and forced him into sex.
And did his car, what kind of car was it?
It looked like a cop car.
Yeah, like a Crown Vic.
Yeah.
See, we've talked about this before. People that drive those fucking cars are creepy.
Yeah. So it wasn't.
He even had like a spotlight on it. I saw in one of the specials I watched.
Yeah, he did. He had lights.
He would like blind people and be like, "Hey," pretend to be a cop.
But once again, this kid just didn't show up, and the charges were dropped.
That's pretty easy, I guess, if you can make them not show up.
Yeah, and that was in June of 1972. So in June of 1972, Gacy also got married to a recent divorcee named Carol Hoff.
Again, he needs that cover, that disguise. Like, oh, I'm a married normal dude.
Yep.
With kids. Heterosexual as ever. Like, and super straight.
Carol had kids of her own, so he had a couple stepkids.
Well, and they were girls. So that's probably the best for him because he knows, like, there's no attraction there. He won't. Because imagine if you start dating someone with young boys. Nope. Penis is getting cut right off.
Yeah, for sure. So his marriage, or he started a construction company of his own.
Like a contracting company, basically, right? Yeah.
So because he had those skills from before, probably learned some of it in jail.
And what can you hire? Who can you hire?
Cheap labor. Guess who cheap labor is?
Yeah, like, and I don't think a lot of, like, immigrants were probably his style back then. So what's the next
There wasn't really even a lot of immigrants back then.
Yeah, in the 70s, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That's why all the people that grew up around that time complain about the people that immigrate to our countries.
Yeah, because back in the day, it was the old school, good old Americans.
Well, and even, like, I mean, not so much in BC, because I feel like we're kind of like an accumulation from everywhere, like hippies.
Yeah.
But other parts of Canada, you can kind of see where they're like, oh, immigrants. Like.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, our whole country is made up
of immigration.
Yeah, I mean, so is the United States. Like,
yeah, like,
I wouldn't even be here. The only people around were indigenous people before we all immigrated.
Exactly.
So in 1975, right after he started the construction company, his marriage kind of hit the shitter again because he started staying out all night. His wife was finding gay pornography magazines around the house.
That's probably a neon flag if I have ever heard of one in a straight marriage.
She was also finding wallets with IDs from young men lying around.
Yeah, all red flags.
So she just...
But what do you even think of, like, the first couple ones could probably be like, oh, some kid from work left it in my truck. But it's like, how do you even... Because clearly he's keeping those, not very secretly, as, like, trophies and stuff, right?
Yeah, so then she just left him. They got divorced in 1976.
And then, weren't there a lot of complaints from her about the smell of the house? Didn't the house start to get stinkier and stinkier? And then...
So everyone has always said that the house was really stinky. And we have to remember that he bought that house before he married Carol, and Carol moved into that house with him. And he would just say it was musty from...
the sewage, right?
The sewage underneath, the water. At one point, he said he had a Lhasa Apso puppy that was piddling on the kitchen floor, and he blamed the smell on that.
Okay.
And...
I think this was a little different. A little different scent.
Yeah. So, he also had a lot of people began disappearing, like, around the area, but... The thing is that back in those days, a lot of people ran away. So we've already said
this. What, are you a cop? Are you a cop? Come on now.
So a lot of people ran away.
But a lot of people did run away because then it was like the thing to do. You just go and you like...
Well, we've said this over and over and over, but... I mean, I even had an uncle that ran away.
Yeah.
And he really did run away. Like, everyone thought he was dead for 18 years or even more.
Jesus.
And then he just called and he was like living in the States.
Who is that?
It was my mom's Uncle John. But I think it was even longer. Like, he called his mom after years and years and years and said, "Hi, Mom," and he had an American accent. And my great grandma was like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "It's me, John." And she's like, "John's dead." But he wasn't dead. He was living a secret homosexual life in the United States.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He was secretly homosexual?
Well, he was living with a man who was homosexual as
well he then definitely was, but that's so sad that he had to run away.
No, but then he was crazy and weird too. Like, he came back, and I don't know how many of our family members listen to this, so I just
just dive into all the nitty gritty details of our family secret.
Yeah, so that, I mean, it did happen. People ran away. I told you guys, I ran away every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To arcades, and like, I always came back until I was 14, and I ran away for good. But
to my dad's house.
Yeah.
That's a story for episode 31.
Yeah, so his employees, there was a couple of them that disappeared. There was
younger kids, younger guys, younger, adults, kind of living the life.
And they would always come and ask Gacy about it, but he was like, oh, he told me he was going to run away, or
he went to Puerto Rico.
One guy, he said that he sold a car to him and he was running away, and like, the cops just took him at his word.
Because again, he was like, wasn't he in some kind of political stance or communal, like the mayor, like something like that?
What happened was he started cleaning the offices. He offered to clean the offices of the Democratic Party's office, and then later he ended up getting into the Democratic Party, and he was going quite far. Like, his goal in life was to become like a politician.
Okay, but you'd think with like all the sneaky ass shit you're doing undercover, that you would probably try to lay low. I understand some people have the other idea of like, wow, if I remain really, 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 really on the radar, nobody will suspect me. But if you just lay low, like, imagine he probably, not saying this is a good thing, but he probably could have got away with it for like a little bit longer. Like, just fuck, they get cocky, they get confident.
Well, and like, some of the people that disappeared, there's one boy that actually broke it all out. And this is kind of where we see where the cops couldn't ignore it anymore, because there was this 15-year-old boy named Robert Peist, and he told his mom and him were in the car, and they were outside of a pharmacy, and he said, oh, there's a guy that hires kids to do like construction work. So he's like, I'm just going to go get a job from him. I'm just going to go off, like, ask him for a job. And he ran into the pharmacy and followed Gacy. And Gacy took him out the back door. And his mom was still waiting for him in the car. So he never came back. But his mom knew who he had gone to see. And other people, there was another boy who...
Like, don't you fucking think you'd clear that first? Hey, is your mom waiting outside or anything?
Yeah,
or like...
Well, I guess there was no time. It was just...
Well, don't you think he would be like, hey, my mom's in the car? Like...
So another thing is that Gacy at this time too, his wife was gone. He was belonging to the political party. He was in with the JCs. So he decided that
he's in with the JCs again.
Oh no, he's not in with the JCs anymore. He raped their kids.
Like, yeah, anyway. He raped their kids.
So he started having all these like social parties with adults and stuff at his house where he was entertaining. And then he loved being the center.
Like,
he loved to be the center of attention. And he also had just started doing work as a clown. He was in parades. He would go downtown.
Could you draw any fucking more attention to yourself?
He would go downtown dressed
this guy
as
wanted
Pogo
to get caught.
the Clown.
He wanted to get caught.
And his makeup, if you see pictures of it, was super, super, super fucking creepy.
It was just super smudgy. Like, it looks like he put makeup on and then he smudged it all over the place.
So in 1978... Gacy lured Jeffrey Rignall into his car and chloroformed him. And this guy has been on multiple videos and stuff because this guy survived. So he raped and tortured him. He said every time he would wake up, he would get chloroformed again. Oh. But he ended up getting out. So he told them, and the police still took no action.
Well, and he told them, like, he tied me up, he waterboarded me, basically. Yeah. He would drown me, rape me over and over and over, and, like tortured him for hours and hours and hours.
So once Gacy took...
And they're like, oh!
Well, they didn't do anything about that guy.
That's what I mean! They're like,
but oh! When Robert Peist disappeared, his mom would, like, just kept going back and saying, like... all this stuff, like, I know where he went with this man. And the police finally looked into it and saw that Gacy had the conviction for sodomy. And then they went on December the 15th, and they got a search warrant for his house, and the cops were in there, and he was making them drinks at the bar. One officer said the smell was so rank in the house.
And they fucking for sure knew what that smell was. They're police officers.
And they just still didn't find anything.
You are like a freaking cadaver dog. Like, you...
They did find some suspicious items. They found a 1975 high school class ring, a driver's license, a couple of driver's licenses from different people, handcuffs, a 2x4 with holes drilled in the ends, a syringe, clothing too small for Gacy, a photo receipt from the pharmacy where Pice worked, and they noticed the odor coming from the crawl space.
Huh.
So when they further investigated, they found out that the ring they had found belonged to someone that was missing.
Yeah, that just graduated in 1975.
Yeah.
What the fuck is an old ass, what is he, probably 40 at this time, doing with a fucking class ring?
So he was born, he wasn't that old. So he was born in
He's at least 35.
He's 35 at this time.
He's still too fucking old for a class ring from 1975.
So one of his employees in 1978 told the police that Gacy had confessed to more than 30 murders. And then they just kind of started tailing him and like going to his house and like watching him a little bit. And so
the dead body smell and all the missing people weren't fucking enough.
Yeah, so they followed him to this gas station, and he ran into this gas station because I guess this is on December 21st now.
Okay.
1978. So they followed him to this gas station. He was kind of like making rounds around town, like just going and talking to a lot of people and like acting really weird. Like he was acting really
I think he was just
sketchy.
Always a fucking really weird guy, though.
So they went into the gas station, and the gas station attendants that were working in the store just threw this pot at him at the cops and said, like, we didn't buy this from him. He just gave it to us. So they finally arrested him on marijuana possession.
And you know what? To the police's, whatever, defense, a lot of the people that he killed, okay, yes, he was, obviously they would keep coming back to him because people that work for him were going missing, which that's suspicious, but a lot of the guys that were coming through Chicago. They weren't from Chicago.
Yeah.
So he was getting them while they were there on, like, let's say a layover from like a bus. We talked about all the kids that took Greyhounds by their fucking selves on one episode.
Yeah.
It was kids waiting.
Like, as we do these episodes, I really do realize that I'm pretty lucky to be sitting here telling you about other people's murders because
there's
I was on the Greyhound at 9 years old by myself. So the police were they had him, and they decided to go back to his house. So they got another search warrant for the house on Summerdale, and they went down, they followed the smell down to the crawl space.
And there was like bugs, because he tried to get an exterminator at one time. There was maggots, so many maggots. Maggots were coming up through, like the wife said,
the vents.
Through the vents, through the sink, like the drains. Imagine you're just brushing your teeth and maggots just come through I would probably be a little more suspicious because, first of all, you know where maggots come from. Maggots come from decomposing.
Well, it's fly eggs that are larvae.
But I mean, like, most of the time, they're on stuff that's like being like compost.
Rotting.
Yeah. So like or decompose, like decomposing bodies.
The very first shovel that they put into the ground in the crawl space hit human remains.
Because I don't think that you have to think how high a crawl space is.
It's 4 feet.
You don't have room to dig deep holes in there.
No. So we find out after this, because the police, as soon as they went and dug up one human bone, they went back to Gacy and said, "You're going to be charged with murder. We went into your crawl space and found human bones."
You disgusting fucking nasty
So
piece of shit.
He immediately just started talking.
He's a talker too.
Yeah.
Gacy, if you Google, YouTube, anything, and you can watch an interview from him, he is a talker. That's why it was really cool that the FBI got to interview him, because he doesn't fucking stop talking.
He doesn't
Kemper.
stop talking.
It's awesome. So
he then admitted that he had 29 bodies in his crawl space.
Oh, no big deal.
He had one body in his backyard, and he ran out of room, so he had thrown 5 bodies under the bridge by his house. So he in total...
they're not going to link those, right? Because all the other people are just runaways. Then those bodies, it's like, where do these come from?
So he told the police that he would pick up male teen runaways or male prostitutes off the street, take them back to his house with either promising money for sex or just grab them by force. He picked up at least one of his victims at the bus station, but probably a lot more. Twice he picked up 2 at a time that were just like kids, teenage kids.
And he killed them both at the same time?
Yeah.
Holy fuck. Like, see, you start to get so overconfident.
So once he got them back to his house, he would handcuff them. And so he had a game because he was a clown and clowns do magic. He had this game that he would say, want to see a trick? And the kid would be like, yeah,
isn't that
cool.
a magician?
Yeah, clowns do magic.
Kids in the 70s were really... You even seem, like, entranced by it right now. Yeah, clowns do magic.
Like, yeah, so he would say, like, watch this, and he would pretend to put the handcuffs on himself, and then he would, like, get out of them somehow, and he's like, now you try it. And then the kids would handcuff them fucking selves.
Yeah, trying to get out.
And then he'd turn around and be like, oh, guess what? I had the key the whole time. And then the kids were handcuffed.
And then they were being raped, probably, and tortured.
Then he would rape them and kill them. So he would usually stuff clothing in their mouths to muffle their screams, and then he would choke them with a rope or a board as he sexually assaulted them. Only one kid ever did he admit, and this was his very first victim, that he stabbed to death, and it was a boy that he had picked up. I think he was 15 years old, and he had sexually assaulted him, probably after chloroforming him. And the kid woke him up with a knife, and so Gacy jumped on him and stabbed him. But later on, he told police that he thinks the kid might have just been making him breakfast, because when he went outside into the kitchen, the table was set for 2, and he stabbed the kid because he thought the kid was going to stab him.
Oh my god.
And he said it was much, much, much too messy. So
then he just stuck to strangulation.
Yeah, he strangled all of his victims.
And you know what? This is fucked up, but a lot of serial killers like to actually feel, like, with their hands, taking the life of somebody.
Yeah, and he had a lot of trophies too. Like, you have to think, like, it took him 6 years to kill 33 people.
Which is barely any time.
No, he was killing some of them at the end. Like, at the end, he ramped up and he was killing, like, I think it was 2 days where he killed 6 people.
Yeah, because they are said to get that, like, it's like an addiction, right? And you have to, like, obviously, it's like almost being, you know, when you're manic and you're going highs and lows.
Yeah.
And it's almost like...
Or drugs, like when you're, like, the same amount of drugs don't do it for you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do more and more and more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he had 33 victims that they found. And a lot of back then, there was no DNA. So you couldn't, like, identify someone through DNA. And a lot of the kids were transient because they had run away.
Yeah, and then you could, like you mentioned before, there's not a whole lot of transient kids that are going to the dentist.
No, and a lot of people didn't even take their kids to the dentist.
No.
Like, back then.
Well,
it was
oral health wasn't really, like, as, you know, well researched, I guess, back then. But, yeah, I mean...
So even identifying some of the kids, like, most of the kids that they found, the parents were, like... There was a huge crowd outside of the house. It took 4 months to dig up all the bodies. And people knew if they had young teenage boys that were missing for no reason, or said they had run away, or they didn't know where they went. Like, one kid said he was going on a date with his girlfriend and never showed up, or one kid said he was going to a party. No.
Right? So it's like, if there were cell phones, someone could have called and be like, hey, where are you? I'm in Chicago, you know.
Yeah.
Let them know, at least, especially if they're transient, or if they're living a life where they're going from place to place. At least now, it's like you can kind of get at least, okay, I talked to her 4 days ago, she was in this place, whatever. But then it's like, okay, if your kid's missing for a month.
Well, and like I said, they identified most of the bodies with dental records, which took months. Some of them Some of the kids, it took years because they didn't have dental records, and some of the people have just been identified recently through
Literally,
DNA.
like I think literally this
Like
year.
2021,
Yeah.
2022. So there's a lot of families that never ever.
2022?
I mean,
Damn, if
well, they're going to
they got
still be. They
found in the
haven't been.
future
They
next
still haven't
year.
even been
You got an
identified
exact
yet.
date over there?
Yeah, well, I'm psychic. So,
Cleo?
Madame Cleo, Madame
Madame
Cleo.
Dion.
So, yeah, he was a fucked up dude. And he just talked about it like
Well, like it
it
was
was
no
no
big
big
deal.
deal. Like if you see the interviews with him, he goes back and forth to
Well, because
like
yeah, a lot of the time he denies, like, oh, I didn't
he
do that.
still was denying like right up until the end. Like one of the interviews I saw with him, he was still sticking to the Lhasa Apso piddling in the kitchen story. Like,
Yeah, and like I don't know how these people must have snuck in here and dug all these bodies under my house.
and it was said that when he did confess, he said that one of the kids was one of his workers, and he made the kid dig his own grave under the crawl space.
Where was his mom? She must have been like deaf and mute and blind.
No, his mom wasn't living with him.
She was for a little while.
But he was living by himself after his wife left in
Mm.
this rancher with
Mm.
all these bodies under his house.
That's disgusting. He try to use lime to like get this rid of the
Well,
smell.
and he also kept hiring people to come and dump concrete under there because he actually ran out of room under the house. That's how many bodies, like 29 bodies in a small rancher in the crawl space. The kids that he killed two at a time, he buried on top of each other.
That's horrible.
Like he was savage.
He was really ramping up.
Yeah. So it was a good thing he got caught when he did.
Yeah, no kidding.
So his trial didn't begin until February of 1980 in Chicago.
Hopefully he gets more than 18 months this time.
Well, during the trial, he pled not guilty by reason of insanity. However, the plea was rejected because he wasn't insane. So,
But like then I think, are they insane? Because like I know like obviously sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, all of them
well,
do deal with that's a mental health
I mean,
thing.
the thing is though, is that they have to prove that you know right from wrong, and he was operating a pretty normal life outside of what he was
That's what I mean,
doing.
but I feel like to even be able to live
Yeah.
that such a separate and like a life like that, you need to be mentally
Well,
ill.
his lawyer, Sam Amarante, tried to say that he had moments of temporary insanity at the time of each individual murder, but regained his sanity before and after to lure and dispose of the victims.
Okay.
And while on trial, Gacy joked that the only thing he was guilty of was running a cemetery without a license. So that's
What a
fucked.
fucker.
Yeah.
Remember when you used to get Tickles the Clown to come to my birthday parties?
Yeah, so that's what I mean. She did magic. She had like magic tricks and birds and like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, my memories are slowly coming back, I guess.
See? It's therapeutic this session. So he was sentenced to death, big surprise, and found guilty on March 13th. So his trial wasn't even really that long.
Well, I don't think it took long. He had like responsible for over 30, the death of 30 young boys.
33 that he admitted to. Like, who knows what happened other than that? Because
Yeah.
as we say, I think a lot of killers have holdback victims that they don't ever talk about just
Because
to
it's like
jerk off to
yeah,
later.
it's their own like
Yeah.
secrets. Like, yeah.
He never expressed remorse. He never really even, I mean, he confessed kind of like in a monotone voice. He never really took, he never said sorry to anybody or anything else. His last words.
Well, yeah, so he was punished to death.
Yeah, so he was punished to death. And he was executed on May the 10th, 1994. So he lived for quite a while.
Yeah.
He was executed at Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois by lethal injection. His last meal was a dozen deep-fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe chicken from KFC, ironic, a pound of fresh strawberries, and French fries. His execution was a minor media sensation, and large crowds of people
It's weird
gathered.
because every time anyone gets like, this is the thing in the states, you always see in the states that do have the death penalty, you see two sides, and you see them where they're like, people are protesting against the death penalty.
Yeah.
and then one side where everyone's cheering for the person inside to die. It's like,
but
it's so strange.
This really just seemed like it was a party, because outside the penitentiary, with numerous arrests were made for public intoxication.
Yeah, because people were celebrating.
Open container violations and disorderly conduct.
Yeah, because people were literally outside celebrating that the clown murderer was getting.
Vendors were selling Gacy-related T-shirts. Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to say, too, while he was still alive in jail until 1994, you brought this up earlier today. Yeah,
he was doing art, like pictures, and this is the creepiest part, pictures of clowns.
He was painting
pictures of clowns, and then he started selling them. I'm pretty sure now that there's a law, because he was making thousands of dollars, because he's the fucking clown that killed 35 people. You know, he had that infamy where, you know, obviously you guys are listening to a true crime podcast, you know that's the kind of thing that's like, some people are really, that's their thing. So buying a clown photo that he drew.
Imagine.
And he dressed up as a clown and killed all these people. Anyway, I'm pretty sure there's some law about it now where.
There is. There is in Canada, you're not allowed to profit
off from any of your crimes.
Yeah, your crimes. So people that have written books and stuff. Because back in the day, like, look at Clifford Olson. He made the police to pay $10,000 a body to even say where the bodies were buried. That guy's such a
piece of shit. But anyway, this guy's a piece of shit too. So, and yeah, his last words were.
So he said his last words were "kiss my ass."
And I've seen reports of that's not true, blah blah blah. But given his nature and who he was quite a firecracker. Like, he was always coming back, like, no, you know, but so obviously he was like, kiss my ass, you know.
He said that to a correctional officer while he was being sent to the execution chamber. Before the execution began, the lethal chemicals unexpectedly solidified, clogging the IV tube that led into Gacy's arm and preventing any further passage.
Oh, fuck. So he was like, given the medicine, but then it stopped working, so he didn't die right away. That's kind of poetic justice.
The people that were waiting in the room to watch him die, because there's like a little viewing room, I guess, like
for family members and stuff like that, right?
So the blinds were all of a sudden drawn because it wasn't working, and the execution team had to replace the clogged tube with a new one, and 10 minutes later the blinds opened again, and it took 18 minutes to kill him.
Oh, well, you know what? He would torture his victims, so it's almost like a poetic justice.
Yeah, so they took his brain for science. That's and cool. It is still currently in the possession of Dr. Helen Morrison, who interviewed Gacy and other serial killers in an attempt to isolate common personality traits of violent sociopaths.
Wow, she sounds like my hero.
Yeah.
That's a super cool fucking job.
So, his brain revealed no abnormalities.
Huh. So I guess they can rule out the head trauma thing.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good fucking episode.
Thanks.
Yeah, Gacy is definitely one of those that if you are a true crime buff, you know the clown killer is probably one of the most infamous. Right? If not. And poor Chicago, because they had that, and then they had, I think right after that, there was the Chicago child murders. So we gotta cover that one too.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to follow that up with. He's one of the serial killers that's ever killed the most people, and the time that he was killing in worked to his benefit, because, like we said, everybody ran away, and you know, parents knew the whole time, but once again, there was really nothing being done about it. So I'm glad it was discovered after.
Because also, I think thinking about somebody doing that
was unpleasant.
Well, of course it was unpleasant, but I mean, I think it was even unheard of. Like,
yeah.
What do you mean there's the guy's house down the street stinks because there's 30 bodies under there?
Like imagine like how bad that would smell. Like, you'd be able to smell it down the block, I'm sure.
No, for sure.
So that was our episode 30.
Whew, cannot believe it. This year has flown.
In the amount of time that we've been recording our podcast, when it came to us, just kind of when Danica came to me and asked me if I'd like to do it, and I just think of everything that's gone on the planet since then, and everything that's gone on in our lives since then, and it seems like it's just gone so quickly, but holy cow.
Yeah, it's going to be 2022.
So next
we're not going to
time...
say that's going to be our year or anything because
we said that in 2020.
And I think we said that in 2020. Like, we said that in 2019, and then we said it in 2020 about the following year. And it pretty much hasn't worked. I mean, great life things have happened, but weird shit.
Yeah, it's been a weird...
It's like, been fucking weird. Everyone knows.
Yeah, everyone knows.
It's weird.
So the next time you hear from us, we're going to have a new family member, and we might even let her cry into the microphone so you can hear her.
Let's hope that she's not really a crier, but
we'll see. But I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and that the fucking... There's no... So... Yeah, I just hope that the world calms down a little bit before next time we speak, but it probably won't, and you'll still have us to listen to because we're there for you guys.
Unless the internet crashes and you can never hear us again because something fucking big is coming. Like,
we'll send you a message.
Through Morse code.
Yes. We love you guys.
Love you guys so much. See you, or we will never see you, but maybe you'll see us. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we will start recording. You guys let us know if that's something like...
Yeah, you guys let us know if you think it's a good idea for us to record while we record audio and record video at the same time.
Yeah, let us know, and we will...
We'll think about it.
Talk to you guys in 2022. So,
peace out.
Yeah, peace the fuck out of here. So, this has been Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
Bye,
guys!